Hello friends, welcome to my channel and coaching center. So today I am going to explain here that is the 9th standard Icse social first chapter, that is our constitution. So let us come to the chapter of our constitution. The making of the constitution. Two momentum days how the constitution was made. Let us see. So two momentum days that was in the historical of this great nation. The two momental days in that one is 15th August 1957, the day when the people of India saw the start of epoch filled with a new vision when we got the freedom, and 26th January 1950, the day of constitution. As you know, it is a set of rules and regulations. Constitution has some of the rules and regulations. It is have more rules of regulations according to which a nation is according to by using that rules, the nation is taken ahead. Next, the ordinary laws of the country must conform. The ordinary laws of the country must conform to these set of rules. The ordinary laws of the country should accept these rules. It also provides a framework for the government. It also gives a framework for the government to function for their function, and the Constitution of India, for instance, outlines the democratic and parliamentary form of government that are adopted by. Next, formation of the Constituency Assembly. In 1938, Jawaharlal Nehru put forward for demand. Jawaharlal Nehru for demanding for the Constituent Assembly. Thus, the National Congress stands for independence and a democratic state. The National Congress was standing for independent and democratic state during 1938, and it has proposed that the Constitution of Free India, the Constitution of the Free of the India, must be framed when as the India gets freedom, and without outside interference, without taking any help with outside people, by outside interference by a constitution, by their Constitution Assembly elected on the basis of the adult franchise. They should only make the constitution. No other outside member should make the constitution. Then after this, the British government sent a delegation of 3 cabinet ministers of India. They sent a delegate of 3 cabinet ministers of India, and the cabinet mission that was arrived in India on 24th March 1946. It was arrived to India, and it decided that legislative assemblies of the provinces, they should be elected. They should elect the members of the constituency. They thought we should elect the members who should make the constituents, elect the member of Constituent Assembly. The princely states would have their own representative by a nomination. The princely states, that time it was states, princely states we call, they had their own representatives by way of nomination, and the Constituent Assembly that was comprised the Constitutional Assembly that has 389 members, of which 296 members from British India, 93 members were from the princely states of India. With the partition of the country, the number of the members, that was 389, it reduced to 299, with 90 members forming a separate body. 90 members who formed a separate body. For framing their constitution. They became separate for framing the constitution for Pakistan. Next, the Constituent Assembly, the The Constitution Assembly, it includes some of the representatives from all the section of the Indian society. It has some of the representatives like society, all the Indian society, from all the Indian society. It has some representatives like from Hindus, it has from Muslims, from Sikhs, Indian, Christians, Pais, Anglo-Indians, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and women. These all known members were there in that, were representing for that in Constitution Assembly. And some of the prominent members like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, Dr. H.C. Mukherjee, Sardar Baldev Singh, Frank Antony, Dr. H.P. Modi, and Dr. H.P. Modi and Sarojini Naidu and others. They were the prominent members. They were the prominent members of the Constituent Assembly, and the Assembly was thus it became a mirror reflecting the diverse culture. It made reflecting the culture of our nation, India. Sorry, 1 minute. So here you can see the picture of Dr. Sachi Sachin, sorry, here it is not, I can't see it correctly, wait. Sachita Nanda Sinha and Dr. Rajendra Prasad photos you can see. So on 9th December 1946 at 11 a.m. the Constitution Assembly it began its first session. They begin, which was first session was attended by 207 members, as there were 389 members in the Constitution. The Muslim League member did not join the deliberation. The Sachidananda Sinha, the oldest member of the assembly, was made the chairman of the Constitution Assembly for temporarily, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was unanimously Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as its permanent. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the permanent chairman, and Sachidananda Sinha was a oldest member, and he was made as the temporary chairman of the Constitution Assembly. Later on, which later it is termed as the president of the assembly, it was termed as the permanent chairman was termed as president of assembly. On 9th December 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru has head of the interim government. Jawaharlal Nehru was head of the interim government and moved the famous objective resolution Jawaharlal Nehru moved, and which it made some of the basis of the preamble of the constitution was prepared by this, and it was passed on 22nd January 1947. This preamble was passed by the announcement of Mountbatten Plain for partition of India. Mountbatten Plain for the partition of India. The perspective of the Constitution Assembly. The perspective of the Constitution Assembly was also changed, and after India gained the independence on 15th August 1947, the Constituent Assembly became a sovereign body. And then it doubled up as the legislator for the new nation. It doubled up as the legislation for forming the new nation, and which was they make ordinary laws, as well as they framed a new constitution also they framed. So the task of framing the constitution was accomplished in 5 stages. The task of framing the constitution was accomplished. In the first stage, committees like the constitution committees, powers committees, fundamental right committees that were formed to present some of the report, to give the reports for the Constitution Assembly about their basic problems in the country, in the nation during after the independence. The Constitution Advisory, they prepared a draft. On the basis of this report. They made a draft, and his own research into other word constitution. They researched they made these reports, basic issues report, as draft, and this they saw the constitution of the other word. Next, the drafting committee, whose chairman was Dr. B. R. Ambedkar. Dr. B. R. Ambedkar presented a detailed draft. Of the constitution for the discussion between the public, and the draft constitution that was discussed and amendment was proposed after the draft constitution was discussed, and the constitution after this the constitution was adopted. Drafting committee. The Constituent Assembly appointed a drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and on 29th August 1947, and this committee that prepared a draft constitution in line with the general guidelines by using general guidelines that were provided by the Constituent Assembly, and it was published in February 1948. And the Constituent Assembly next met in the November 1948, so that to consider the provisions of the draft and clause by clause to discuss about that. And the second reading was completed by October 1949, and the Constitution Assembly they sat again for the third and final reading. The third, as you know, first session was over, then second session, now it is going third session they started finally, which was the third session was completed on 26 November 1949, and the constitution was then signed by the president and they declared as passed officially, and the constitution was came to our India. Next, commencement of the constitution. The Constitution of India came into force on 26 January 1950. It came into force. It is specially selected for its historical significance, for its constitution's historical significance. This day was selected, and at the Lahore session in 1929, the Congress they has passed a resolution declaring they declaring Purna Swaraj as the goal of India, getting Purna Swaraj as the goal of India, and it has also decided their not Constitution Assembly, the Congress that who has passed the resolution, they has decided for to observe the Independence Day, on 26 January every year till India actually gained freedom, and thus it was appropriated. They were appropriated to choose that day to show the continuity of their freedom struggle, from the beginning to the adoption, to show their continuity of the freedom struggle from the beginning to adoption of the constitution that made India as a republic country. A written constitution. The Constitution of India is a written document. It is a written document, and it comprising in the original form. The Constitution of India has 395 articles and 8 schedules. It has, as the makeup of this country was diverse and varied, our constitution makers decided to prepare a written document. They decided to prepare a written document that was based on laws framed by the members of the Constitutional Assembly. The laws that were framed by the Constitutional Assembly. No aspects of governance were left to conventions. No aspects of governments were left for their convention, tradition and practices. There are also unwritten constitution. There are some unwritten constitution. That is in the case of England. They are. Next, a detailed and lengthy constitution. The Constitution of India, and it has the distinction of being the lengthiest and the most detailed constitution document in the world. So our constitution, it is lengthiest and very much detailed constitution in the world. And this large size, this constitution is due to for following factors. It has like the framers, they are framers of the constitution. The framers of the constitution, they decided to include in our constitution the relevant features, from all known constitutions, of the other country, taking some of the relevant features and adding it to the constitution, and avoid the defects and loopholes that might be encountered by them. For example, like the fundamental right or based, they are taken from the American Constitution, and the directive principles of state policy that was taken from the Constitution of Ireland. By taking some of the points from the other countries' constitution, the Constitution of our India was prepared, and it is very much lengthiest constitution was made. And the vastness of the country with its diverse culture, tradition and customs, and the peculiar problems that were linked to this diversity, they has also contributed to for the bulk of constitution, and there are sections there that are dealing with the scheduled tribes and the backward classes they are dealing with, and the official language and emergency provision was as well as made. Next, not only does the constitution provide for the function and role of the union government. For union government, it does not just give the function and role, but the detailed power of the state government are also given for the state government, and to avoid any controversies between two sets of government, a detailed distribution of power is given, which has also added the bulk of document that has made the constitution still lengthier, and the constitution makers adopted the bulk of the constitution. They adopted the bulk of the provision from the Government of India Act 1935. From this, they have taken some of the information that contributed for the volume of the constitution, and the act itself was very lengthy. The Constitution Act was very lengthy, and much was borrowed from it. As people were familiar with the contents and all details about the administrative process that were included in the constitution. Next is the constitution. It also includes some of the justifiable fundamental rights of the individual. It has some of the justifiable fundamental rights of the individual along with the directive principles that are the fundamental in the governments of the country, that are fundamental for the governance of the country. They are important, and these are by way of moral restraints, and they are in such details that they are added for the bulk of the constitution. These were added. Here you can see. So review. So here they are given define the constitution, the term constitution. Why was the Constituent Assembly set up? Many other questions here they have given. Name the 4 prominent members of the Constituent Assembly who proved that it was truly representative in nature. Who was nominated as the temporary chairman of the Constituent Assembly? Who was elected as the permanent chairman of the Constituent Assembly? What was the later name for the position? And what was the role of the Constituent Assembly after India gained independence? How many members comprised to the original memberships of the Constituent Assembly, and why did the number reduced and by how many it reduced? And we have to name the 5 stages of work undertaken by the Constituent Assembly. These are some of the questions they have asked here. Here also they have asked some of the questions. Next, as the Constitution was made, so let's continue. Sorry, there was a problem in the mic. So the preamble. So the objectives resolution was something more than a resolution. So the objectives of resolution was something more than a resolution. So it is a declaration. The preamble is a declaration of a firm who resolve a pledge and an undertaking, and for all of us a dedication that gives the preamble. And this ideal The basis philosophy, which is the moving spirit of the Constitution, the basis philosophy, that is the moving spirit of the Constitution, is faithfully that is reflected the way it is the basic philosophy. Basic philosophy is reflected in the Constitution, in the preamble, and it is an introduction to the Constitution. The preamble is the introduction to the Constitution, not enforceable in the court of law. In the court of law, it is not enforceable. Though it was earlier, though we believed the preamble was not a part of Constitution, we believed in the earlier days. But a landmark judgment of the Supreme Court, in the Keshavananda Bharati, that was state of Kerala case. The case was from the Kerala. In 1973, the Supreme Court established that it was definitely an integral part of the Constitution. In 1973, the Supreme Court announced that the Constitution, the preamble, is a definite part of the Constitution. It will be a part of the Constitution. The Supreme Court gave that judgment, and the Constitution, it serves two purposes. It indicates the sources from where the Constitution derives its authority, from where the Constitution authority derives. From there it gives us sources. And the next one is it states the goals. It takes the goals which the Constitution should be established, the goals from which the Constitution should be established, and it should be promoted. The word we, the people of India, adopt, enact, and give the ourselves this Constitution. This word declares that the ultimate sovereignty, or it declares as the sovereignty of the people of India, and the Constitution, it is derived from them, and the people of India are the source. The Constitution we derive from some of the people we take about the decision. We take some their views. So the Constitution that is derived from the people also, and the people of India is also the source of the Constitution. So what are the objectives of the Constitution? So the preamble that states the objectives of the Indian nation in clear terms has to be sovereign society, secular, democratic, and republic. The next, sovereign. The word, it signifies the independent authority of the state. It signifies about the independent authority of that state. And India is sovereign. That means that she is internally free. India is internally free to formulate their policies, and also externally free from any foreign controls. They are externally free from any foreign controls. India is externally free, and India cannot be dictated to by any outside authority, and all matters are under the legislation. All matters should be under the legislation. We should not by any outside authority. We should not by the views. So India is a member of the Commonwealth. As you know, India is a member of Commonwealth, but unlike Australia and Canada, she does not acknowledge allegiance of the crown. So, as started by the Prime Minister Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, India would continue her full membership of the Commonwealth of Nations. India would continue their full membership with the Commonwealth of Nations, and the India would accept the acceptance of the king as the symbol of the free association of the independent nation. They should accept the symbol as the symbol of the free association of the independent nations, and as such the head of the Commonwealth. Being a member of the United Nations Organization UNO and the non-alignment movement NAM, India does not affect the sovereignty. By this, no other country can affect the sovereignty of the Republic of India. Next is socialist. The word socialist that was added in the preamble in 1976, its principal aim is to eliminate economic inequity, and to provide a decent standard of life for one and all, to provide a decent standard of life. And it does not The socialist does not seek to abolish the concept. It does not seek to abolish the concepts of private property. It does not abolish the concept of private property, but to restrain it so that what is available, it may be used for the upliftment of the poor. Thus, India has a mixed economy where both government, public sector, and private ownerships who both can go together, and a socialist state should endeavor to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor, so the equal opportunity can be made available for all the citizens in the India. Secular. Next is secular. The word secular was also inserted into the constitution in 1976. It was added to the constitution, and this is done to reaffirm the policies of the state to protect and preserve the rights of all religious group, to protect the rights of all religious group. And India does not recognize any particular religion. In the state religion, they does not recognize any particular religion, and is not theoretically, it is not theocracy, a form of government often controlled by religious leaders, a form of government that is often controlled by the different leaders of different religion. So our constitution that give the guarantees for individual for the right of freedom of religion by incorporating this for the fundamental rights. Next, the state does not discriminate on the grounds of religion. The state cannot be discriminate, and beliefs and practices it cannot be taken. All the citizens are free for their practices, preach and profess any religion of their choice. They can, if they belongs to which religion, they can take in so far as it does not go against the peace, and sovereignty of the nation. Every citizen is equal before the law. Every citizen is equal irrespective of his religion, caste, class, color, and or creed. Next is democracy. The concept of the democracy adopted by the Constitution, it covers the political, social and economic aspects of the life. All citizens who are 18 years of age and above have been given the rights to choose their representatives to their parliaments and to such a municipalities and villages panchayats they can choose the people they need. And thus the form of government in India can be described in the words of Abraham Lincoln, as said that of the people, by the people, and for the people. By this, we can tell the form of the government in India we can be described. Next, a true democracy should ensure ways and means for every citizen and to realize his or her potential to the fullest. India aims to be a democratic society where the human rights are respected and the people are free from all forms of exploitation. The fundamental rights granted in the Constitution that secures the basic freedom that are essential for a democratic country, and freedom of speech and expression is another thing. Next is republic. As the preamble declares India as a republic, as preamble declares India as a republic country, it has the head of the states is an elected one. The head of the state who follows this will be the elected one, and having no hereditary rights as in the case of the king. We should have no hereditary rights in the case of the king. And the people elect the president of the India, who is the head of the president of India, who is the head of the state, and it is done indirectly through the representative. It is done in the parliament and various state legislature. By this, the election of the president will be done. Comparing this with the system in the USA, which is also a republic country, USA is also a republic country, the US president is elected directly by the people. As they follow the president form of the government, they are directly elected by the people, and India follows the parliament system of the government, in which the president is elected indirectly, while the parliament and the council of ministers, they are elected by the votings directly from the people, votings of the people, and the elected heads in the office for a fixed term, they should, as in the case of the king or queen of England, the king or queen in the England, they live for their whole life. It is not like that in the India. Ideals of the Constitution. The ideals of the Constitution of India, as stated in the Preamble, that includes the ideals of Constitution. It includes justice, liberty, equity, and fraternity. Justice that ensures that every citizen get his or her due in a society, and justice which is free from prejudice, and partiality, free from the prejudice and the partiality. Political justice means the absence of any distinction between humans in the political sphere, the absence of any distinction between the humans in the political sphere, and the universal adult franchisee, which India has adopted. India has adopted the universal adult franchisee that ensures that all citizens, irrespective of their caste, religion, and education qualification, these all religion people could participate in their political process. In the political process, the people can participate, and equal opportunity are available to the men and women, and irrespectivity of their caste or creed, or irrespectivity for their caste or creed, or in the matter of the public employment. Constitution that safeguard are also provided for the minorities and the backward communication in the country. They also give the constitutional safeguard for these peoples. Next, social justice. In the social justice that ensures that social evils and imbalance that are removed from the society, the social imbalance in the society should be removed, and the environment in the country should be on one of harmony, and discrimination on the grounds of the race, class, religion, or caste should not exist, and economic justice works towards the equitable distribution of the nation's wealth, and through the directive principles of state policy, which strive to that gives citizens the right to work, and the rights to adequate means of livelihood, that gives them the adequate means of livelihood, and the right for the government assistance, and it seeks to establish a welfare state. It tries to establish a welfare state by removing some of the inequality of opportunity, and it ensures that equality of status becomes a meaningful. Next, liberty. Liberty has the very words that suggest means freedom. Liberty means freedom. The fundamental rights that are enshrined in the Constitution that gives guarantee freedom of thoughts, expression, faith, beliefs, and worships to every Indian. It gives the freedom in these things, and every Indian can express his thoughts without fear or favor, and he can follow any faith of personal choice, worship in any way that he desires, as long as he does not as long as it does not encroach upon another freedom. This way, the constitution makers believed with the growth of the individual citizen and the country will develop, and there will be a stronger sense of peace and unity in the country. Next is equality. To guarantee rights to individuals would be meaningless unless all inequality are banished from the social structure. All inequality are removed, and the Constitution guarantees equality of status. The Constitution gives guarantee for the equality of status and opportunity for the development of that person, and all the Indian citizens are equal before the law and can enjoy all the advantages that the state provides for them. Next, finally, by abolishing the untouchability and titles of honor, by throwing open public places for all citizens, by providing universal adult franchise to all citizens, by ensuring equal pay for equal work for all men and women, the Constitution guarantees equality in its entirety. Inequality in its entirety, it tells. Next, the fraternity. This assures the dignity of the individual and the unity and the integrity of the nation, and the concepts of democracy would be meaningless if it failed to generate the spirit of brotherhood. If it is failed to generate the spirit of the brotherhood among all the section of the people in India, then if it does not happen, makes brotherhood, spirit of brotherhood among all the sections of India, then it is not useless. It is the feeling of is one of belonging to the same motherland, the feeling of belonging to the same motherland, and this is most appropriate in a country like India because of the diversity of races, religions, and cultures in it. The first requisite for maintaining the independence of the country as well as to make the democracy a success is to foster a sense of unity. The word the fraternity that was inserted in 1976 in order for argument to the sense of unity and belongingness in a country torn apart by a multitude of problems, and this spirit is possible when all communal and provincial feelings which are stands in the way of unity, all the feelings that stands in the way of unity for country that are abolished, and national integration, the convictions of one country, one nation should be upheld by all citizens, and the preambles of the constitution that reflect this spirit of brotherhood to be followed by all the peoples of India. Finally, the preamble that reflects the intentions of our constitution through by following ideals like securing justice, equality and liberty to all citizens of India, guaranteeing basic individual freedoms of thoughts, expression, faith, belief and worship to all the people of India, and promoting a sense of brotherhood and fellow feeling among all the citizens, and maintaining the unity of the nation by fostering the feelings of oneness among the people. The preamble that seeks to establish the Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, once described the India of my dreams, namely an India in which the poorest shall feel that it is their country in whose making they have an effective voice, an India in which all communities shall live in perfect harmony. There can be no room in such an India for the curse of untouchability. Women will enjoy the same rights as men. This was the words told by Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our country. So, okay, friends, this was your chapter, our constitution. Here you can see some of the question. So, I think you understand this chapter, so try to solve these questions. So, okay, friends, I'll see you in my next video explaining another chapter. Till then, take care. Have a nice day. Bye, my dear friends.